Hi everyone, my name is Shaquille Kondasami, and today I'll be doing my EDN 449 Assignment 2 on the Autism Spectrum Disorder. Autism, or ASD, or Autism Spectrum Disorder, affects approximately 1 in 160 Australian children, and they can vary from the ages of 6 to 12. Teachers, family members, or people within the community can identify ASD at a young age. Children that are affected by ASD display a distinct collection of developmental and behavior issues that can impede their social life and their academic life. Children with ASD are affected by everyday tasks. They suffer from sensory issues in regards to light, touch, smell, and taste. This disability has the potential of lasting a lifetime, and this can cause them to fall behind their peers if they're not supported within the early years. ASD students also can have difficulty developing fine motor skills. What impact does ASD have in the classroom? The impact the ASD may have on the student in the classroom will vary from student to student, depending on what level they fall under within the autism spectrum disorder, as each level affects the students differently. Below are some examples of how it may affect students in the classroom. So there's ASD level 1 requiring support, ASD level 2 requiring substantial support, and ASD level 3 requiring very substantial support. Now, students with ASD within the schooling system will normally have an EA if the school has used their education disability funding. Although it is still important for teachers to be able to be equipped, regardless of having an EA in the classroom, and being aware of what is needed to deal and help our ASD students. It is essential for teachers to create an individual learning plan for ASD students. This is not to just target the academics, but it's also to target certain behaviors that may have not been corrected in the early years or need correction in the early years. Students with ASD may not just need the individual learning plan, they may also need an escalation profile or a risk management plan if they are showing aggressive behaviors. So these two will come hand in hand. Students also may not understand what you are saying, making it important for the teacher to explicitly teach and scaffold as much as possible within the classroom to ensure that a student is given clear instruction and is not feeling overwhelmed by the teacher's instructions. Students may forget what you've asked them, so the teacher may have to repeat their explanation several times over. As ASD students take time to process things in comparison to a student that does not have ASD. Another point that could impact the student within the classroom is students may become confused and have difficulty with understanding spoken language dependent on where they are within the spectrum. Thus, the teacher and students must take time and speak clearly and use the specific tone to help their peers understand what is occurring within the classroom. Students may feel overwhelmed and the classroom can feel chaotic to them at times, and this can cause a sensory overload as students aren't able to regulate their emotions, and these outbursts can affect the classroom. These are some of the impacts that ASD students can have within the classroom. Here are some classroom considerations that teachers can take that will not just benefit them, but will benefit the classroom. Students that have ASD, as we said, are not able to interpret social cues, body language, eye contact, facial expression, and use of tone. This can be challenging for them to regulate and understand what is occurring within the conversation. Teachers need to give clear instructions so that there's no miscommunication when they're trying to set them off to a task. It is important that they have their full attention of the ASD student before giving them the task, and it is also essential that they use wait time and avoid using the words stop and don't, because when the student is processing these things and as a teacher we say stop and don't, this can cause the student to escalate or feel at unease. So the two evidence-based strategies that I will be choosing for my classroom, or that I would recommend, is differential reinforcement strategy. This strategy is implemented to reduce undesired behaviors within the class. These behaviors can vary from aggression, self-injury, calling out, touching, disrupting, and walking out of the classroom context. It is important that the teacher focuses on a specific behavior when using this strategy, and that the student is displaying, and implement the reinforcement strategy. It is important to develop an understanding of when the strategy is applicable to the ASD student. An example of the differential reinforcement strategy being used correctly is when a student performs a desired behavior. The teacher is to follow it up with a positive reinforcement or a reinforcement that they are expecting of that behavior. An example of this is if a student is avoiding work in the classroom, usually as they're behind or struggling, and the ASD student asks the teacher for help. This is when the teacher can actually reinforce that the student is attempting and give them positive praise or reinforcement that yes, you're doing the right thing, asking for help. Another example can be when the student puts their hand up instead of calling out. The second strategy that I will be focusing on is structured groups. The teacher is to guide students through a play-based activity that involves nurturing students through social situations, where ASD students will then steadily develop their communication skills, language expression, language ability, and decrease unhealthy behaviors. ASD students will not only be able to monitor and observe their peers interact with one another, they'll be interacting with them as well. And this can be done in several complex situations. Several social situations, depending on how the games are structured by the teacher. The teacher can use music, movement, space, and group activities to choose from. Overall, these are all the strategies and classroom considerations that I have implemented and I would consider using within the classroom. Another great strategy to use is also a picture timetable, as this shows the ASD student what will be occurring throughout the day and the routine is ongoing. Thank you for listening to my EDN 449 Part 2 assignment.